when Jimmy Carter was first elected president. Then I was up in New York City and I was at this meeting, and this person said, what do you think about the new president? And I said, I don't know, I think it's going to be okay. And they said, yeah, but don't you think he's stupid? And I said, no. I said, I don't agree with him on everything, but I don't think he's stupid. And this person said to me, she said, but have you heard the way he talks? And I'm like, I didn't know what to say. And I just looked at her, and her face turned red. And she says, no, I didn't mean it like that. But it was too late, because she did mean it like that.
The dominant culture is considered superior, and therefore that language is considered superior, and anyone who speaks the deviation from that language is considered inferior.
We shall meet by the beautiful river that flows from the throne of our God, and we'll walk up the streets of that city, up the streets where the angels have trod. When we enter the gates,
when you start apologizing for who your grandparents are or the way your grandparents talk, then you're in dangerous territory, I think.
Just what it will be like when we walk up the streets of gold. That's another that I like. How'd you like that? My nickname is Coon, but my real name is Combs, K-O-M-O-S. Yep. But my grandma, I reckon Poppy's mother, was the one, as far as I know, give me that nickname. But that's what everybody knows me by. Cool nice. I was raised right down here, about hardly half a mile down the creek. It's quiet and peaceful. And I know everybody, You take going to a strange country, it takes you a year or two to get acquainted. Then sometimes you don't even know your next door neighbor. Now here, well, it's different from that, I've got a brother that lives in Lexington, and they don't associate with one another. If you run out of coffee, you go to the store and get it. You don't borrow. We used to do a lot of borrowing here, You'd run out of baking powders, run out of coffee, run out of lard, go to your neighbor, I need a cup of grease.
I think it's important to pass down the traditions of the speech and the way we say things, because that's where it came from my mom, and then it came from her mom before that, and it came from my dad, and it came from his dad before that. And the reason, and I think that all the time we get, as I was saying before, a little more proper with the way we talk, that we're not as probably not as easygoing with the way we say things, because we're not as comfortable as we used to be. And I think that's because we get in places where we're not used to. When people said those things, they were in always a comfortable situation with people that they knew. And now we find ourselves more and more in situations where we're not as comfortable with the people. We don't know the people, and it puts us in an uncomfortable situation, and we feel like we have to kind of sit up straight and kind of guide ourselves along so that we talk right and act right, and not embarrass ourselves or our family or anything. And as I was saying before, I think that's just fine as long as it doesn't become unnatural. And when it becomes unnatural, then to me it's not fine anymore. You have to accept me for how I am. You have to accept what I say the way I say it.
I mean, it's natural enough. You don't want to, if you say certain words a certain way, people think you're stupid, and at some point you don't want to feel stupid anymore.
Don't get much time for reading with 14 kids to take care of.
15, Anna.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting about Benjamin. You know, Pa, I heard something new over the radio today. They call it hygiene. They say you can raise a better bunch of kids with it.
Let them raise their own kids with it. We done all right without it.
Well, I don't know, Pa. Of course, Tom turned out real good. There's a boy you can really call a self-made man.
I think that people that don't put on a show and don't try to be something, they're a lot of times they mistake you for being simple-minded. I don't know really why that is. But.
Personally, I used to have a terrible accent. I took it upon myself to try to lose it, in college especially.
You're watching Eastern and Southeastern Kentucky's #1 source for news. This is Mountain News Nightcast.
It's becoming an all-too-familiar lead story.
Flash flooding and the destruction left behind. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Hensley. Jill is off tonight. Leading our nightcast, as we first reported last night, for the 5th time this year, residents in the McRoberts community of Letcher County are cleaning up after flash flooding ripped through the area.
I don't want to make this sound bad, but I think you're more credible if you don't have a strong mountain accent.
When a language dies, that culture as a active culture also dies. Without a unique representation of a culture, there is no culture.
I tell you, good knowing him, when he was a little fella, he'd slip off and go to school. Wasn't big enough, and he'd listen to them big and spell. One day he told the teacher, said, I'd like to learn to spell. She said, all right, little man. Said, can you spell cat? He studied a few minutes. Gosh, that's an awful big word. Give me out a little like kitten. Hey, kitten. Yeah.
I like the notion that different people in different parts of the country are going to grow up speaking separately, and that, or in differing ways, and that those ways will give them a sense of place, a sense of cultural identity, and a sense of family that I think is actually makes them stronger rather than weaker.
My granddad's had a corn shucking, and my dad's sister was single then. She had 3 boyfriends. She asked her mother, said, Ma, oh my God, they all here? She said, which one am I going to be with? And her word was, for my God. She said, for my God, Mattie, which one do you love the best? Well, she said, I love Dee Fraser awful well. Or she said, that's the one to be with. Well, there's some traveling salesman down there riding a big red horse, and they shuck corn till 11 o'clock. And he told my grandma, he said, if you got room, it's late and everything, I'd just spend the balance of the night with you if you. Well, she said, you can stay. And he said, if I can get up in the 4 part of the morning, well, 3 o'clock, she went in and woke him up. Said that your breakfast is ready. He wiped his eyes out. He said, it sure didn't take long to stay all night here.
I remember going to Indiana as a young child and going into a store with my cousin and him introducing me as his cousin from Kentucky. And they were like, oh, well, say something for us. And it was like, I don't remember if I said hello or what I said, but it was like, yeah, you can tell she's from Kentucky. And I definitely, we have an accent, but it's something I like. It belongs to me, and I really like it. And I noticed that my kids, I listen to them sometimes and I think, oh man, they really have an accent. They have a good country accent. But that's the way I feel about it. I think it's a good country accent.
I planted some of the pumpkins, not here, at the corn bottom down there. There's a corn bottom. You know where that White House down there is? And then you go to that big hill before it. Don't you see the corn bottom? That's where pumpkins are too. They just haven't sprouted yet or anything. They are the late kind.
I could hear them keep saying that, and I saw them just there. You look like a hick. You talk like a hick.
You look like a hick.
You dress like a hick.
I'm hoping they're going to be proud to speak out and tell their stories in their own way. I certainly don't tell them to use a specific dialect. I do work with them on enunciation and slowing down. I want them to be confident and proud of who they are, proud of how they talk, and proud of their personal stories.
Some of the words that we say may not always be appropriate that other people might think, but we do have certain things we say our way, and we do stand out, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not as smart as other people.
I was talking to somebody one time and I said, oh, he died off. You know, and it was just to kind of see what they would say. I could have said he died, but I just said he died off, you know. It was just kind of like the way my grandfather would say it in a way, but I knew that this person hadn't really heard that expression. And I just remember he was like, died off. And it kind of like took a while for it to register, but I just did it for meanness in a way. You know, just to be devilish.
Yeah, once when I was working in that apple shop and I was working out at the front desk, I got a call and they just said, just talk for us for a few minutes. We want to hear your voice. We need an Appalachian accent. And I was like, you need an Appalachian accent? Can you tell me why you need an Appalachian accent? And I don't really remember what they were doing, if they were doing a movie or if they were doing a play. I think it was a play. And they were trying to get the idea of how Appalachian people talked. And so I talked to them on the phone for a few minutes, but my feeling about it was, you know, if you want an Appalachian accent, you can't have mine.
And this little girl came up to me one day and she said, you know, you talk just like my mama. I said, do I? And she said, yeah. She said, my mama could get up in front of people and talk like that. And I said, yeah. And she said, would you have to change? And I said, no, just be who you are. And that was, and when she said that to me, it was just like something opened up.
And so it's that sense of value that's kind of connected to pronunciation that I find just kind of disheartening and a little bit sad, really.
I guess that phone call kind of made me feel looked down upon, and it makes me feel angry, and then it makes me feel like I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to hide it for them, and I'm not going to hide it for anybody else. But the thing is, those people that called, they wanted it, and they didn't have it. So that was made me feel proud. So I'm proud of the way that I speak and my accent and where I come from.
Dialects aren't allowed, and that's such a shame. It's like taking the colors out of a painting. It's such a disgrace that dialects are discouraged. I think they're wonderful.
The main thing is that it's not transmitted to another generation, and therefore the culture, the way of looking at the world, the way of speaking, the way of identifying to a group dies with the death of the language.
All and all, he's my all and all. Every time I get in trouble, on him I call. He's my bread when I'm hungry. He's my shelter in a time of storm. He's my rock in the time of trouble. And the world can't do no harm. Some sweet day I'm going to travel to that happy home on high. For I've been washed in the blood of Jesus, and I'm ready now to die. I hate to go and leave save my family in this awful world of sin. But if they'd only look to Jesus, we could all meet again. He's my all and all. He's my all and all. Every time I get in trouble, on Him